Am I the a-hole? My friend is having an affair. We plan to tell her husband. Plus updates. Original post. I've known Anna, female 38, since we were in high school. We are part of a group of 5. Now we hang out as families for Christmas, birthdays, Easter, etc. It has been like this for over 10 years. My partner, Greg, male 39, is good friends with Anna's husband, Darren, male 39. Anna recently told me she's having an affair with one of their family friends, who is also Darren's sister's ex-partner. At the time, I remained non-judgmental and supportive. Once the information set in and I realized how disloyal and gross the whole situation is, my sense of justice and moral compass came into play. Darren is a good man. Anna says he is a wonderful father and husband, but she just doesn't feel the connection with him anymore, despite faking it the last 6 months to keep her secret under wraps. I knew keeping this from Greg may backfire on me if he found out I also hid a secret. So I told him. He is shattered for his mate, and it is eating at him. I've told Anna that Greg knows. She's mad at me for the betrayal, expecting me to take it to my grave. She knows they're catching up soon and Greg plans to tell him. Anna has not asked for a separation because they have an overseas trip coming up in October. She has told me financially that she can't leave. Keeping in mind, she regularly gets expensive treatments like Botox and taking roids to have her look her best. We want to tell Darren about her affair in 2 weeks. Will we be the a-holes? She doesn't want to tell him because they have an overseas trip coming up. Likely a trip he's paying for, and she wants to leech off him. Tell him. We will. He will want to sell her tickets and cancel reservations. The sooner he knows, likely the less money he'll lose. I put this above, but he needs to freeze his credit immediately and contact any credit card companies to cancel cards and get an update on money she spent. Either running up the bill now or spending on her affair partner. Same with bank accounts, college savings accounts for the kids, you name it. Her money train is about to derail. Unless she's stupid, she's going to try and get every penny out that she can. Also, to add to this, as part of the conversation where Darren gets told about the affair, he needs to be told that he has to do all of this before confronting his wife about the affair. She's made it very clear that she's only in it for the money at this point, so he needs to cut that off as soon as possible. She is mad at me for the betrayal. Cheater mad for betrayal. The irony. Also not asking for separation because of a trip? What will happen after the trip? You would be the a-hole if you don't tell Darren immediately. She's greedy and selfish, I suppose. That's an understatement. Edit/mini update. Some have asked why we are waiting. Greg works away. He is home in 2 weeks, closer to 1.5 weeks now, but feels like due to the nature of the conversation, it should be in person. He knows Darren will be very upset, possibly angry, and wants to be here to support him in those initial moments. I feel like I should also mention there are kids involved. Do we tell him via text sooner? Let's clear some things up. They have always had separate bank accounts. They do not join money, and never have specifically because of how she spends money. They both work and put in a percentage of how much they earn into the home. She does not have access to his money and will not be able to clean it out in the 2 weeks. I know for a fact he keeps a very close eye on the credit cards. While we were away and she was buying unnecessary things like clothing, she made sure to use her card, not the credit. She says he will question her about it since they're trying to pay off the house and save for the trip to Bali. We are in Australia and laws are different. Things will more than likely be 50-50 financially. Greg can't quickly fly or drive back from work. It's a 13-hour drive one way and $600 plane fare. He's first in, first out, and cannot leave until R&R begins. While we all live in the same state, Australia's pretty damn big. She told me directly she would want the kids to be 50-50. Anna's never liked kids, and while she loves her own, I think the thought of having them full-time sounds like a walking nightmare to her. The person she's having an affair with has lunch with her locally sometimes while she is on lunch break from work. They have run into acquaintances multiple times. He comes for a family dinner twice a week. The kids have caught Anna sitting on his lap before, while Darren is not home. He comes over when Darren is on night shift, while the kids are in the home. Anna has apparently been able to cover up by telling the kids she does his injections and that it's private, so she administered them behind a locked door. He is also in roids and she's in hers. Darren did ask if I thought she was cheating back in January due to her libido suddenly becoming very heightened. At the time, I thought it was because of a recent surgery she had. I don't think it will be too hard to convince him, and I'd say he has an inkling already. As Anna has said, over the past few months, he has become possessive and jealous. For obvious reasons. The family trip planned in October is with another family friend and their family for the husband's 40th birthday. They have split activities, accommodation, etc. I think. We do need to keep in mind that Darren may choose to stay and work it out. In this case, Greg and I will be put in a very awkward position and possibly be removed from the group. Which I'm okay with, but a little bit disheartened at the thought of losing people I've spent the last 20 years with. We have moved the meetup to the day Greg flies on Tuesday. If he was flying home sooner, it would have been done sooner. While it's not pleasant, I've had to sit on the info, guys. By the time we confront him, I will have been told exactly 2 weeks and 3 days. Greg and I agree, in person will be best for this particular friend. Now for the full update. First and foremost, thank you for all the advice. I feel the general consensus is that we are not the a-hole. We were dreading catching up with our friend Darren, as we really did not want to be breaking news of this magnitude to him if there was an option for him to either come to the realization himself or her to come clean. Darren texted me Sunday that he had caught her. Greg and I still saw him and offered as much support as possible. She definitely watered down her BS, but Greg and I have told Darren what we know, which he said he is extremely grateful for. She did not apologize or provide reasoning, but simply packed her bag and left. The kids stayed with him at the family home. The children were distraught and Darren seems a broken man. At least now the ball is in his court, and he can see Anna for who she truly is. Darren is a mess, but has plenty of people surrounding him, including her family and friends. As for mine and Anna's friendship, I have decided I will be removing myself from it, and I'm no longer in contact with her, nor do I plan to be. I know plenty of people deemed me the a-hole for betraying a friend's trust, but was she really a friend, blaming and guilting me after making me complicit in her own deceit? I did not mention in the post that Anna had told me the following morning that it was good I knew, because now she could use me as an excuse. I don't owe loyalty to a friend like that. As for the group, I have messaged them about my stance and why I will be removing myself from Anna. Again, the ball is in their court. It's their decision if they choose to continue a relationship with her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling people that my wife and I are planning to get divorced? After a tumultuous year, my wife, 32 female, told me a 34 male should like to separate, and I agreed with her. She told me she wanted me out of her life as soon as possible so that she could move on. But we have a shared apartment, so she'd like me to move out full-time. For the last 6 months, I've been living sometimes in my office to give her and I some space. I always imagined that this would be temporary until we solved things, but now that we are no longer together, I don't feel bound to her anymore, and thought that I should try and do what's best for myself. That means using the kitchen, shower, and bed in our apartment. It wasn't great having to live on takeout and sleeping on a couch here in the office for months on end. She said that this gave her a lot of anxiety and that she would contact her parents, who are leasing the apartment to her, to throw me out, and that she'd say whatever it took to get them to do that. I went immediately to her parents to seek reassurances that this wouldn't happen. I later found out that this is illegal. When I showed her the law, she said my reading comprehension sucked, and that even if it was illegal, she'd just get me deported since my visa application hasn't been finalized yet. Since then, I've made arrangements to stay with my parents in the States, travel around Germany to see the friends I met there one last time, found a lawyer, tried a support group, and generally have just attempted to move on. It's been difficult though, because she keeps messaging me telling me about how she isn't feeling well, and that she secretly didn't want to divorce, but was hoping for a break so that we could see if things got better. In Germany, you need to separate for a year before beginning divorce proceedings. She is also talking now about how things might be better, but that all went out the window when she found out that I told our parents. She said that it's simultaneously her right to tell her own parents, and that I shouldn't have told mine because my father is kind of a blabbermouth. I really wouldn't have said anything to her parents honestly if I wasn't so panicked about being kicked out of our apartment. She doesn't know that I told a bunch of my friends already, so I can only imagine how angry she will be when that happens. So am I the a-hole? You're getting a divorce. It doesn't really matter if she is mad at you. Get the paperwork done and move on. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You owe her nothing. It doesn't matter if she is mad. It doesn't matter if you're an a-hole. Block her mentally. Block her totally and tell her if she needs to communicate with you, she can do that through your attorney. Better not block her, but to communicate 100% through text so everything is in writing. Not a-hole. Too bad for her that she couldn't control the narrative and make out that you were the bad person in all of this. That is what it was really about. She wanted to poison the fields of your friends and family before you had a chance to say anything. God only knows what she planned to accuse him of. OP, get your narrative out there far and wide. They know exactly what she's like. Next story. Am I the a-hole? I told my ex's mom that her son physically abused me and it broke their family. I, 24 female, broke up with my ex, 24 male after a few years of hell. I was beaten by him from time to time whilst living with his family. I was blackmailed and threatened by him to stay silent for so long. The bruises I had on my rib cage were hidden by clothing, so the family never saw. But eventually, I got the courage to escape and ended a toxic relationship. I kept in contact with his mom, Sandra, who is like a second mom to me, and we meet for coffees now and again. She doesn't know the real reason why I broke up with her son. While in therapy, Sandra texted to check how my sessions were going and asked to meet at a cafe afterwards. She knew I was going to therapy but had no clue what for. We sat in the car for a bit, chatted, and I showed her briefly some worksheets I was given from my therapist. Basically, a printout of a PPT they made about domestic violence. Sandra looked through the sheets, me forgetting that she didn't even know about it all. She became manic and worried and asked why I have therapy in domestic violence. I would feel terrible just lying to her face, so I told her to park in a more private area to chat, and then explained that her son physically mistreated me. She was mortified to say the least. We both ended up in tears and hugged each other. I received a text a week later from Sandra that she recommended anger management centers and therapy for him, which she refused. So, she said unless he seeks help, she's cutting him out of her life. She canceled holiday, birthday, and Christmas plans with him for the rest of the year. Did not expect that. And then get told by friends that my ex has said he is self-harming now because I told his mom about the abuse. I know it was her decision to kick him out and his actions to me are unforgivable, but I can't help feeling guilty for breaking up their family and causing her son to be suicidal. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your ex is suffering the consequences of his actions. 1. Nobody forced him to abuse you. That was his choice. 2. He could have avoided being cut off by going to therapy and anger management. Also, hopping on here to say the fact he's saying he's self-harming because of you is another manipulation tactic. Stay strong, OP. Different situation and the ex and I are more or less amicable, but even when she found out I was self-harming, I made it clear it wasn't because of her. It was the situation of the breakup and what that entailed, sure, but it wasn't her fault. It was depression in my feelings. Nobody else caused them. 100% a manipulative tactic if it's like, you're making me want to end myself. Not the a-hole. Oh, poor him. His abuse has been found out by his mom. He's not going to end himself. It's his way of trying to turn the tables and become a victim. Classic narcissist move. You did the right thing by telling the truth. Yes, the world would be a better place if we normalized the outing of perpetrators of DV, child abuse, sexual abuse. What's different here, and frankly encouraging, is that the relative of the perp didn't defend him. I mean, let's get real here. The guy should be in prison. It's kind of messed up that OP has any care whatsoever that he's currently separated from his family. That's trivial, relative to what should have happened to him, and that she's guilty about this is an indication of the screwed up dynamics around these issues. He assaulted her repeatedly. For that, he should be in prison for a long time for repeated violent felonies. Am I the only one who's worried that OP could be in danger now that he knows she told his mom? Stay safe, OP. I'm glad his mom was on your side. Funny you should say that. I am absolutely terrified of him because he lives in the same area as I do. I have actually accidentally bumped into him a couple times and have had to run away. I'm considering filing a restraining order against my ex. What do you think? Don't consider it. Do it. Contact the police and let them know your fear. Also ask your therapist if she has any ideas for how to protect yourself, especially if your ex knows where you live. You're not overreacting. Last story. Am I the a-hole for going no contact with my family after they expected me to get back with my ex and help her raise her affair baby? I am 30 male. I am not sure how to word this because I'm crushed and don't know what to do. I have been with my high school sweetheart Cassie since we were 17. My parents love her and so did I. Our parents were always asking when we would get married and give them grandchildren, and me and Cassie would say when we are financially stable. We are both doing good in our careers. My job, however, required me sometimes to leave the country. I left 7 months ago. I am due to go back this week. Except a friend of mine rang me to tell me that Cassie is 3 months pregnant. Obviously, I am not the father. I didn't believe my friend and rang up Cassie, and after pushing her, she finally broke down crying and admitted that she is pregnant and it was a drunken mistake. She said she doesn't know who the father is because it was a random guy. She said she wanted to keep the baby, and we raised the baby. I was in shock and ended the call. I texted her and said we were done. She tried to ring back, but I switched my phone off. I was on autopilot for a couple of days and just worked. Then my boss told me he had a family emergency call from my dad, and I took the call. My parents basically said that Cassie confessed to cheating, but it was a mistake, and the baby needs a father. I saw red and told him if he was so worried about the baby, then he can step up and be there. We got into a heated argument, and I ended the call and blocked him. My mother, him, and ex had been texting on different numbers and telling me to step up and mistakes happened. I got so frustrated that I rang them up and said that I was going no contact with them and I will be looking to applying for a visa to stay in the current country permanently. I heard my mother and ex start crying before I hung up. It's been a week now, and I have time to think about what happened and wonder if I'm the a-hole. Not the a-hole. And why the heck do so many people think a man should bite the bullet and raise some rando's kid because their wife/girlfriend/acquaintance decided to have unprotected sex with some other guy? Also, a drunken mistake. Hands up if you find your partner a gun, then go get drunk and hook up. I did get drunk once and argued that our outside Christmas lights looked too much like Easter lights and would confuse the neighbors. I was told to come inside and sleep it off. Not the a-hole, and don't look back ever. Your parents are freaking a-holes for trying to step up as the father of the affair. This is a great opportunity to make everything you want. Don't throw it away. I think his parents want grandkids so bad that they lost their mind. Or one or both his parents have cheated. Why else are they pushing him to forgive? Sounds very suspicious.